So before we get started, I'd like to say that I am not a researcher. The information I intend to share with you today is based solely on lived experience, shared experience, and observation. Heavy emphasis on the lived experience and the shared experience. Although it can be said that artists are among the best researchers, I can assure you that I am not one of them. I'm an artist living and working in Cincinnati, and my claim to fame is painting white people as monkeys. That's racist, right? Well, not quite, but for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to use racist, prejudice, and bias interchangeably. The bottom line is everybody's racist, and it's okay because as long as you want to change, you can change. So I'll tell you about me. For the first 20 years of my life, I dealt with a lot of prejudice and bias, and in the ways that you might think, but also in ways that you might not have thought of. I thought all white people were rich and lived in big houses with white picket fences. I thought all Asians were good at math, and all Indians were doctors, and it was factual. I mean, I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it from my parents. I didn't read it in books. But somehow I seemed to know everything about everyone. I knew things about Arabs and Jews and Latinos. The irony is, I didn't meet a white person and get to know them on a personal level until I was a freshman in college. But somehow I knew it all. But I get to college, and it turns out I really didn't know much. My ignorance was reflected back at me again and again. And it was embarrassing. I realized that I might be biased and prejudiced. But it wasn't my fault. It was America's fault. The enculturation system of the United States set me up for failure. It was one of those experiences that I couldn't share with anyone. I was too embarrassed to even admit it to myself. So I kept it a secret. I buried it down deep in my little black box. But enough about me, let's talk about we. What did we learn growing up as Americans? Well, as children, we learn about our ABCs. Easy as 1, 2, 3s. We learn about animals. We learn about shapes. And we learn about color. We learn that yellow is the color of sunshine, and the sky is blue, and the trees and the grass are green, and apples are red. And they all live in harmony in a happy little rainbow family, universally accepted by all. Roy G. Biv. But what did we learn about black? We learned that black is dangerous, mysterious, devoid, absent, just plain scary. Black didn't get to be a part of the happy little rainbow family. I guess you could say black was the black sheep of the family. For no fault of his own, when he would go outside, there always seemed to be a black cloud over his head. And when he would walk down the street, the other colors would cross to the other side like he was a black cat. He always thought it was because he had bad luck. Maybe he did. He never got invited to the gatherings, but he always heard about how much fun they were and how he should have been there. But he was blackballed. Even if he wanted to sneak in, his black head would have been too noticeable. Brown and gray had very similar experiences. But a little brown nosing and a bottle of Grey Goose go a long way. At a certain point in time in black history, black was sold on a black market. The irony in that is, at a different point in time, black couldn't even step 1 foot in a market where there were other colors. He was blacklisted and demonized. People said, watch out for that black ice. Well, here's the thing. Black is me. I'm black. I'm a black man. What we learn about color as young people has a direct social impact on how we treat people as adults. Almost every noun prefaced by the word black is negatively connoted. So that when we meet a black person, everything that we learned about black downloads and transfers to that person. And it's implied that that person is inherently bad. This is the impetus of implicit bias. This is where prejudice and racism begin. So, I want to show you a project I've been working on. Now, I'll let you decide what you see, but I'll tell you what my intention was. So, at the height of the pandemic, pretty much every gallery space, exhibition space, closed for artists. Now, I'm an artist who paints monkeys, so naturally, I wanted to do something that involved monkeys. And I found it really difficult to have a creative outlet, so I decided, let's be creative, let's think outside the box, let's create a renegade street project that we'll go out and we'll put up in neighborhoods. So I decided that I was going to do a project about gentrification. I live in a neighborhood that's currently being gentrified, and there are tons of communities that I've seen go through the process. So I created the No Monkey Business sign, and it was supposed to tag neighborhoods that were being gentrified or that have fully transitioned already. And it was supposed to be a warning sign for the folks who lived in the neighborhood to, watch out, go to those community forums. But what happened was, there was an outrage. I started getting text messages, screenshots from Reddit and Facebook and Instagram. People didn't want these signs in their neighborhood. I mean, I hired a videographer. I went out dressed like a city worker, and I put these signs up and no one paid any mind. And 2 days later, my inbox is on fire. What I discovered was that every black person who saw this sign saw themselves. And every person that wasn't black that saw this sign also saw black people. I was flabbergasted. To me, it meant that if we see black people as less than human, then we treat them as less than human. So, what started out as a peaceful protest against gentrification became a call to action to reconcile our racist past. It became clear that we all share racist views. But it's not our fault. It's America's fault. The enculturation system of the United States set us all up for failure. But we have to take ownership. Now that we know, we have a responsibility to change the narrative, to reshape definitions and perceptions. By taking power away from words like black male, we create the kind of equity that we need in this country. So I propose, instead of black male, let's just use extort. Instead of black cloud, let's just use storm cloud. And let's just all finally agree for once and put to bed, there's no such thing as black ice. When we take power away from words, a special thing happens, and I'll give you an example. We don't use the word colored to describe people in this country anymore. Well, maybe some of our grandmas, but by and large, we've decided to eliminate that word as a descriptor for people from our cultural language because of the weight it carries, because of the barriers that are erected in the life of someone who's assigned color. What I'm proposing is that we do that same thing with black. We've already started doing the work for you by replacing negatives with positives, like black is beautiful and black girl magic. James Brown even did a song about being black and proud. Imagine how different the world would be if black was part of the happy little rainbow family. Universally accepted by all. Roy G. Biv. For all of our would-be allies, the performative aspects of your contribution is over. You don't need to go to a protest and hold a picket sign to be an ally. You don't need to be pepper gassed or maced or shot with rubber bullets. This is where you start. Small incremental changes around language leading to huge transformative cultural shifts. I'm asking you to commit to admitting that you're racist. To commit to admitting that you're biased, that you're prejudiced. I am. Admit it to yourselves. Admit it to someone else who does not look like you. For all of those folks out there that say, I don't see color, do us all a favor and stop lying to yourself. We live in a world full of color, universally accepted by all. Roy G. Biv. I'm not asking you to be color blind. I'm asking you to be color brave. It's only through discussion might we find a middle ground that leads to an amicable solution. Thank you.